Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Times Hour. All right, B, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please rise and welcome to the tee our very next special guest in this great series on the Pioneer Women of Disc Golf. She's the OG with the B, the deputy supervisor of Frisbee Hill, the thrill from Rochester who got the best of the crowd at the WFC 2 years in a row so many years ago. She's the free spirit with Frisbee style who always played with passion and never any guile. Indoor flights and summertime Frisbee nights shaped this admin biz into the disc golf whiz. It's a breeze to make the call. She may be a self-described old geezer, but she still got it all when it comes to the game we play. From pre-basket days to and pre-bevel plays to the turning of the wheel from Frisbee to disc, she has been present to represent the passing of the lamp from champ to champ. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the Tar Heel State, the great Michele Marini.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, what a talent you are to weave that together in time. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't ever read through it. Well, actually, he hasn't included it the last couple of times just because I don't read it, and I always like to just see the surprised look on the person's face when, oh, wow, where did he find that?
Yeah, I was like, indoor. Yeah, I heard that one. Unknown indoor fact, yes.
Well, let's first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. This is a really special and important thing within the thing that we're doing this Pioneer series on Pioneer Women of Disc Golf. And so let's just jump in, Mace. What you set it up there. Just tell the people.
Yeah, right on. All right, so framework. We're here today with Michele Marini. Her PDGA number is 303. You're originally from Rochester, New York, and now you're hailing from Hillsborough, North Carolina, which is near Raleigh. The Global Master Series rank is number 11 in women 65 through 69. You have you threw MTA 8.5 seconds in Cedar Falls, Iowa, April 26, 1981.
Indoor.
Oh, that was indoor. What's that?
In a huge dome, on the campus, and that record still stands today.
Ha.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Nice.
Who's hosted an indoor maximum time aloft event?
Well, we're gonna I got some specific questions that I just realized when we talked to Cheryl Newland. We'll talk about that later on today, but who gets to do things like that? I mean, like it's interesting, and we'll talk about this too later, but that what you told me about yesterday about Jim having access to the gym at the school that he taught at, and that's where you tune up your skills. And like people down here where I live, they don't think about that kind of thing. Like, what do you mean? Why would I need to throw inside? I mean, you just wait a day or two and it's going to be beautiful around here. So
you plan indoor events, and that's how my mom and dad met each other, was bowling and indoor winter sports. So
oh wow,
yeah,
and that's cool.
So Jim Palmieri started the Rochester Frisbee Club. Probably I can't remember the exact date, but I mean he started it late 60s, early 70s, and then hosted a couple little golf tournaments on his own local, and then finally had the big one in 1974, the first American Flying Disc Open. And so yeah.
That's pretty amazing, and it's still rolling with 50 years later. And that's one thing that's really been cool in the last few weeks with us too, because we talked to Susie Horn a couple weeks ago, and their event's at 45 now, and I just sanctioned my event for the 23rd, and so I'm way behind y'all. And I feel like I've done a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just I'm halfway there.
Yeah. Well, again, Jim, he was just a pioneer. He was a forward thinker. He loved every type of sport. He was a runner. He was a gymnast. And when Frisbee came along and he saw just such a great combination of different skill levels that you could incorporate into golf, into distance, into accuracy, into maximum time aloft, into freestyle, he just jumped on the bandwagon and just took it to new heights. And again, was such a great organizer, motivator, and he had the van. He had the wheels to get everybody.
Nice, right, right. Oh, and that's gonna come up again. That's gonna come up again later as well.
Yeah.
So you were a two-time World Frisbee Golf Champion in '79 and '80, as well as a World Frisbee Distance Champion in 1980.
Yeah.
And where did you play those two championships at, the '79 and the '80?
So that was at Whammo's World Championships at the Rose Bowl.
Oh,
And
cool.
yep. So from in '76, when Whammo then started their premier events to then crown an overall champion, you would have to qualify by attending what they call the NAS, North American Series. And it was overall events at individual tournaments throughout the country. You had to accumulate points in order to qualify to get to Whammo's World Championships. And then your trip is all paid, even your airfare coming from, East Coast. It was
That's
my
awesome.
first time on a plane for me to have that opportunity to travel. Same with David, Jim Palmieri went, Doug Correa went, Jamie Molt, probably second or third year, but yeah, we had a good contingent from Rochester.
But those two years that you won golf, I know the Rose Bowl was there just as the finals on Sunday for the big, showcase sports.
Exactly,
But
right.
golf, you had to play off campus, basically.
Right.
And sometimes was it always Irvine?
It wasn't always. I guess it depended on. I remember Irvine in 80, 79, but I remember back in 76 and 78 playing Oak Grove. And then there might have been another one to us, and I just don't remember where, but yes, we would do our 1 or 2 rounds of qualifying, and then the finals would be cut to whatever, maybe 8 or 4 ladies, and then you're tag teaming or kind of that group's going off to finish MTA, but here you got to be here now. But if you were still in one of the other finals, it's like, ooh, quick, I got to finish here because I got to get over there.
Okay.
At least if they had it on the one campus like they did with Irvine, you could get from one location to the other, to where the field events were versus the Frisbee golf course they had right on the campus.
Wow.
And
So in those situations, was it, since a lot of that stuff was based on time, were they flexible if to allow you to be able to complete what you were doing at another in another event on the other part of the field, or there wasn't a bunch of rigidity back then, was there? Everybody was like, no, go get it taken care of and we'll have time for you here too.
Very flexible, and if it went a little bit longer, you just kind of let the officials know, hey, I got to be over there because they're going to start this second round, but I need to finish up here at distance, so can I go first? Simple things like that, and just get it out of the way. And they were but yet Whammo, every morning you'd go to breakfast at the big cafeteria, and you had your agenda and your itinerary where you needed to be if you were in this round, if you qualified for that, where the prelims, where the semis, where the finals were going to be. So they logistically had it really well done.
Right.
Well, all the players.
That was Stork was doing so much of that, not getting any sleep.
Yes. Sleepless nights. And then the publications, again, with that agenda, your itinerary, it had all the results from the previous day. So somebody was staying up late, and it was, not photocopying. I wonder if it was mimeograph.
Yeah,
Probably
cranking
was
the machine
with the old blue ink and everything, right?
Well, that kind of chemical activity will
of
get you to stay up at night.
A lot of hours.
Yeah, eating a lot of bad food, staying up all night, and sniffing mimeographs, man. That's not a combo. That's well, I don't know. He's still with us, so I guess it probably didn't hurt him too much. So your PDGA number, this is something that we always get a kick out of, because there's lots of different tie-ins, and like yours is going to be similar to some of the tie-ins that I've seen happen at my events, because I used to run the early events in the DFW area. So I was getting everybody's renewals or their new lineups. But we always ask, okay, so where was it that you got your number, and what were the circumstances that led to it? So go ahead and tell us that story.
Okay, so in 1977, we went to the Octad, which was down in Rutgers, New Jersey. And that was a big overall event, Octad, 8 events. So you could pick and choose if you wanted to do as many as you wanted or just fine tune it. David, my husband, would kind of fine tune it and just do freestyle and maybe TRC, MTA. So we did that tournament over the weekend, and it was Memorial Day weekend. And then on that Monday, it was at Craigmere, and that was now a new official PDGA golf only event. So it was on a Monday. So we all left the Octad and then drove, I don't know how far, but it was still in New Jersey. So it was still on the East Coast. And everyone arrived, whatever time, between 9:30 registration. So you're in line to register for this event and pay your PDGA fee, get your PDGA number and register for the tournament. And so my husband, because he had the pocketbook, well, the money, he's 302, I'm 303. He paid for both of us. Doug Correa is 304. He was standing behind us. And then the subsequent, now the PDGA numbers are in the 300s, because I heard there was the same weekend, more on the West Coast, a PDGA event as well. So how they tag team distributing the numbers, I don't know. If maybe theirs was on the Saturday before ours on a Monday. That could have been.
Yeah, you're right. You could have that's
preoccupied it, wanted to do the Octad in Rutgers. And again, that tournament was established by Stork and Gary Siebert and Irv Call and the guys that came out of that area of New Jersey. And that's Jens and Irwin are New Jersey guys and started, freestyling, but they did all the events as well. And there was a smaller women's contingent, but I'd compete with maybe 10 to 15 women. So my competition wasn't as tight as, guys competing against 200 in a field.
Yeah.
Golfers or, the other events and stuff like that. So, but then, so we did get to know each other better because we were, constantly paired or mixed up and went to do this event and this event, so they had, at least a women's division for everything back then. And thank you, Cheryl Horn, or Cheryl Newland Payne.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheryl was great. She had a lot of great stories about, raising her voice and definitely getting things organized and counted on. But let's talk about you and let's go back to your origin story. I know Mace Man had talked to you and gave me the note, so I didn't actually find this anywhere, but your first date, and you guys are still married, we saw him before we started recording, to Dave Marini, was in February of 1974.
74. So on February 16th, we will celebrate our 50th anniversary of our first date.
Wow.
We knew each other since 7th grade, same school district. Yeah. So we were longtime friends, common friends, but didn't start dating until college. So we come up with our 50th anniversary, then dated the 3 years and were married in 1977. So my first years of competition was my maiden name, Michele Harrington. During 75, when we went to a few tournaments, Dave was competing, I was spectating, and then we were married in May of 77. And so then as a 77, all my name changed to Michele Marini.
So I know that you had started playing Frisbee in July of 74. Is that where you discovered Frisbee sports? Is that like the first, because Frisbee was in the zeitgeist before that.
Right, no, it was just a fun thing to do. And again, in the summer months, you'd find the parking lots that were lit, which were a lot of church parking lots, and you could go play. It was cooler in the night, and Dave had a couple other buddies. He played a lot, and then I'd get out there and start throwing. And I just came across a picture of us. We went camping in 74, and I'm playing Frisbee and catching a master, right? The big oldies,
Right.
under the leg catch. So I started throw, and we just had fun on the beach. And but in 74, David attended that first American Flying Disc Open because it was on the college he attended. It was on the college grounds, St. John Fisher College, where he attended.
There's a bad resolution.
Went to the local Mazda dealer, got this car as the prize. Stork competed in the DDC event and the golf. Everybody did. David would have competed in both events as well, but because of the accumulative scoring of the two events, Stork came out ahead and took first place and won the car. So
wow. So travel across the country, organize the event, and then win it.
And so Jim Palmieri paid on that little car loan for a few years after that. He said
Oh,
was that a secret I revealed, but he said it was the best investment he ever did because he knew the sport and the popularity had potential. And so he wanted to show that big, sponsorships, come on, get on board. It's it's worth it for their exposure and to have the big prizes to draw the players.
wow, that's
Wow.
yeah. Biting a TD like in a way that I never even considered.
Yeah, yeah. Jim was again a pioneer and forethinker of promoting and popularizing this sport, and he did a great job. So that was 74. So David attended that, and I didn't get to attend. My funny story. I went to watch the afternoon events, but a big rainstorm came in, so I left. But that rainstorm kind of put a bunch of water on an underpass, and my car stalled in the underpass. I had to call my dad and get out of there. I must have wet the carburetor. I don't know, damp water under the carburetor, but I got home okay. And then, yeah, he would have gone back for the Sunday. I didn't go on Sunday. So that was August of 74. So again, all that winter now, he's met Jim Palmieri and some other people in Rochester. And Jim was a teacher. We went indoors. He taught at Penfield High, so he was able to get us free gym time, like on a Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And that's when everybody would kind of do freestyle. And then maybe couldn't do a whole lot of other things indoors, but just hang out and even to just spin the disc yourself and practice your tipping and practice throwing. We just did that and then would go out and hang out. And that was all that winter of 74. Wow. So 75 comes around, and David knows from Jim that in order to qualify for, again, the Rose Bowl, Whammo's championship, you had to pass the master's test. And he did not, there wasn't a qualifying tournament or I guess if you passed your master's test and just paid your own way to get there, they would allow you to compete. But there were others that were invited. And so he went with Jim Palmieri. They picked up Jeff Hungerford in Boulder, Colorado. Jim's brother, John Palmieri, was in the van, and one other person, this friend Woody, just a local friend from Rochester. And they drove from Rochester to Southern California.
Wow.
To attend the Rose Bowl in 75.
So that's a good question. I wanted to ask you, when he came back, was he enthused, pumped up, inspired?
On fire, yeah, because now he's again seeing the freestyle. And Doug Correa, another competitor, guy from Rochester, was starting.
We know Doug.
He was a great player, trick catch, trick throw. So Dave and Doug partnered up again as a 75 and into that winter season from 75 going into 76. Practice, and now they're getting, they're seeing other freestylers. Now they're incorporating the trick catch, trick throw, fine-tuning their skill, and then in 76 broke on the scene as a very high competitive freestyle pair in 76. And a lot of times it was in the first, they were in the top 3, and a lot of them with Jens and Erwin Velasquez on the East Coast.
Nice.
Now, before we get too far, I already talked to you a little bit about this. You had a great interview with Scott Stokely, and you're talking about 75. Mm-hmm. Your first event that you went to travel to, you didn't play, but you witnessed, was the venerable IFT, most likely the first and longest running tournament in the world, Frisbee tournament. And it was there that Dave really chose the freestyle events, and you really kind of gravitated to the field events.
Right.
But I love this story about you watching Monica Luke. Can you expand on that?
So the guys I got to show you real quick. This is probably Dave's t-shirt from 1975, playing with Jim Palmieri, this friend, Woody, Doug Correa, John Palmieri, Jim's brother. This was their Guts team. So Guts was the big event there. And so I'm just looking, I'm a spectator, and they have this demo, and it's like, ooh, wow, look at that girl throw. And they introduced her as Monica Luke, the current world champion, because she must have won it in 75.
Right.
Maybe 74, you can go back 74, but she was the premier distance thrower all through early 75. So she was there, did a distance demo, and it's like, wow, how does she do that? Well, then they had a little, what would you call it? Step up and try your, have a fling, throwing distance. And I tried it and I realized, whoa, there's skill involved and I don't have it. So just that, again, road trip with Jim Palmieri in his VW van. So we drive up to that tournament for the weekend, 4th of July weekend, drive back home. And so now that's July of 75. And then we hear about the Toronto tournament in early, probably first or second weekend of August of 75. And that's where I got my first Frisbee t-shirt.
There you go.
Nice.
Who were the Frisbee freaks?
The women's guts are my team. And guess who was my team captain? Gail McCall, Carolyn McCrory, Carolyn's sister, Catherine, all from Toronto. And I do not remember who our fifth was, but because the team out of Michigan, which would have been Joe Cahow and some other women from the Humbly Magnificent, this group, because we went to their tournament one year.
Oh, wow.
Humbly Magnificent, is that what that says? Yeah, so they were out of Ann Arbor. They were at that tournament, had a guts team. And so I played on my first women's guts event in whatever, the August of 75.
Wow.
And then Jim would have hosted his second American Flying Disc Open 1 or 2 weekends later, again, big golf and DDC. And I might have, I'd love to find out if I even wanted to try and compete. I might have, but probably didn't place at all. And probably Joe Cahow was there, and Gail McCall and Marie Murphy might have come in from Chicago to do this premier golf, especially, but he didn't give away a car that year.
No, I think he gave away a bike, didn't he?
Well, I know he did in 80. Oh, no, you could be right. You could be right. I'm not sure.
I'll have to go back and look at the files. There's just so much data out there. People just have to go and look for it, or they could just tune into us and listen to our chat.
Right. So that's August
Now,
of.
I want to ask you, this is a good time to ask you about Gail McCall.
Mhm.
Could you expand a little bit on Gail, or do you have a Gail story or a memory you want to share with us?
Yeah, all right, so we met at that tournament. Then she would have come to Rochester. We would have gone to Toronto every year because it was close from Rochester, and got to know Gail. And then many times, never played DDC with her, but would have been, all right, off we go to do distance, off we go to do accuracy. But I remember she went down to Austin, Texas in 77, and David and I were both there. It was a big freestyle event, and then probably golf and distance. But Gail, they had a raised platform stage, and they had a strange little ladder to go up to the stage. And so talk about OSHA laws being totally neglected. But I remember seeing her walk up this ladder of steps without having to hang on to the rails, but the poise and the balance in her was just like, how did she do that? But her freestyle reflected that. She was just so graceful and great. But when she needed the power, and she could place in distance, and of course MTA and TRC. But saw Gail at many tournaments, and then had another opportunity one of the summers, I want to say 78 or 79, to go out to the World Championships when we were still hosting. She stayed after the tournament, and I'm pretty sure it was after, but anyway, she came with us down to San Diego because I had a high school friend there. And so she drove with us, down to La Jolla, and we just hung out at the beach that day. That trip, they lost her luggage. I went shopping with her because she had to go buy, sneakers and an extra pair of shorts. And we used to wear leotards with shorts and, just summer wear. And so I remember going shopping with her. So we forged a good friendship that summer. So, yeah.
That's one of the great story. The great things about this Frisbee fraternity is the love, the family, the connections.
I still keep this. I mean, many of you probably have it. It's the when they did it's like that's the Jim Kenner and her did their new discraft. This is a teeny little medallion with Discraft Products, Westland, Michigan, out of Westland. So I still have that.
I know they started production in London.
London, Ontario.
Yeah. Do you have any discs from that era?
From theirs, probably not.
Might be something.
Unless I don't think this was no, that's, we have tons of Sky Stylers because that's what David and the majority of the freestylers started playing with after, okay, getting back to the original, we all started with the pros. For many of the beveled events, this was the guts disc. And then, because they also then had the Super Pro, your next size, there's a tiny little, I don't know, it's a raised little bump. Freestylers would shave it off with a razor blade, so they had a smoother surface.
Oh, yeah.
So this was then the because the Master had a real strange indent here, but this was the Ultimate disc, and we played Ultimate in '76 and years on. So then, with Whammo being the main manufacturer, finally Discraft came out with competition. Oh, then Jan Sobel in West Coast came out with the Puppy.
Right.
And so now he's starting to give the golf discs. Of course, I think by then didn't Hedrick already had come out with his Midnight Flyers and everything like that. But
Right.
again, at each world championship, they would crown the champions and they'd get their premier, their names on the discs. And so this
nice.
So this is Monica Liu, Bruce Kroger, Joe Cahow, and Dave Johnson. So 2 were the distance championships, the other 2 were the overall championships. Yep. So
all right, that's cool. And so that was stuff that came out this year for last year's winner.
Yes, it would have come out the following year, and then it would come out in multiple colors. This is a misprint. It's off center, but this was my distance disc. The 119s were what we used for distance. And then golf drives were with these 119s. And then when they came out with, obviously then the 119, then the 141, how they nestle nicely.
Yeah.
You had, maybe I'd use this because I need a little more weight. There's too much headwind, and you could use the 141. And then of course, Hedrick, came out with now the
Midnight Flyers.
Plastic. And then this was 77. Do you know, Paul, what year they started the?
I think it was, I got to look that up. 77 sounds about right now.
That's a good question.
So it's the Night Flyer, no ring, but then the Midnight, right? First it was the Night Flyer, no mid.
Okay.
Then it became the Midnight Flyer. Then it came out with the, I don't know why this ring. So now we've got a better plastic because the Day Glow plastic gave more weight.
Right.
And better into the wind, better distance. But it was still a great flying disc that you could curve by really.
What was the number? What did the number signify then?
Nothing. They just usually did them 1 to 8. And then it's just because everybody was using these, it just a real quick, oh no, I was the number 2. I'm going to go check that number 2. Oh no, that's your number 2 over there.
Oh, okay.
Easy identifying. But then you still marked it up anyway, that's why I got all this green around it, because I could see it from a distance.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
It's interesting, when you think about it, unless you were there, unless you know it, the World Frisbee Championships were limited to just Whammo discs.
Right.
And so you've got all of a sudden around this, starting with Ed's PDGA,
Right.
and then you had in '78 Santa Cruz with the World Flying Disc Championships. They would open up to all types. There you go. So you could use anything that you wanted at these places, and sometimes
that only started at the Santa Cruz. Was that the Santa Cruz the first go around with that, or was that? I guess that had something to do with Whammo being purchased and then them pulling out, basically.
Yeah.
No, that was before that. That was in '78 when that started.
Okay, but this was 80 because I know, date on it. But again, now Dave's premier sport is freestyle, so he would go out because he'd compete in this. But I said, oh, they got golf, I'll do golf, and I won it.
Of course you did.
Nice.
So yeah, just with whatever was in our arsenal, we would use. But I had my favorite disc. I have to show you. During the 76 to 80, when we did the North American series, they would put someone on a logo disc. So this was my husband
Oh, look at that.
in 78.
Wow.
Yeah, so that he was 78. And then you've seen the Joe Cahow.
Yeah. Tina gave us each one of those.
But Dave was, featured on the disc. So when you went to Whammo's events, you signed all kinds of releases for any photography taken. And so then they were able to use any likeness of you wherever they wanted for promotional.
Well, this is good. Good segue. They should have licensed this promotional.
Okay,
Look at that focus. Look at that intensity. Ready to set another record. And
Yeah.
am I wrong, or is that Dave right there?
That's Dave. That's Dave.
They
And
were all rocking the luscious curls, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that's 78. But anyway, got all my shirts. I dug them out. Because they would give you the uniform. So
Okay.
Oh, okay.
then 77, then 78, there's the logo. So 79, back to familiar color. Oh, now we have High C as a little sponsor. And then 80, now we've got, US,
Oh, yeah.
kind of on there.
The US team.
Yeah, and then I didn't go 81, and then 82 is when it went to New Jersey and was Mazda sponsored. And so again, I'm pretty sure, by 80, those later 80, 82s, they did allow you to use other golf discs, even though it was their tournament. They realized just use what you want. And so that's.
Well, their name was plastered all over the event too, though. So I mean, it really didn't matter what you were throwing, right?
No, not by then. No, I don't think they.
Let's jump in with, we talk about the Rose Bowl, we talk about the NAS, we talk about these meets. Many of them are, not all of them are complete overalls. The World Frisbee Championships obviously are, but you've got some events that are just like you say, guts and freestyle or DDC and distance or things like that. But Mace, why don't you jump in here with the just talking about the whole idea of overall events?
Well, so and I got a pretty good question for this here in a minute, but the overall events basically, we're covered MTA, TRC, self-caught flight, accuracy, distance, golf, guts, freestyle. But which ones did you favor and which ones did you not favor? Which ones were you good at and which ones were you not so good at?
I guess I held my own in TRC and MTA, which were, the self-caught flight events. And, ended up doing really well in 1980 at that one indoor event. But I liked accuracy and distance. But the neat thing is to have to go and practice on off days or nights when you're going to be attending a tournament, or you just gathered with the Rochester Frisbee Club and we just did events, or let's play golf. For me, golf was taking all those other skills, reading the wind, being able to do a big arcing curve, taking accuracy and doing a straight line drive to a target, taking the distance for the drives, incorporating it all into one event, but go have fun. It was like just taking everything I had already practiced and go have fun with it. And golf. And my dad was a lifelong golfer. So I knew, just the mentality of the sport in a sense, and I just enjoyed that one, and just, kind of enjoyed playing with friends and being outside and walking and enjoying beautiful nature, God created. And so I just kind of just enjoyed that event.
So yesterday I learned that there was five girls and 2 boys in your family growing up. So did your dad play golf with all y'all, or was there just some that he would play with and some that didn't want anything to do with it, or?
No, the reason being my grandmother worked weekends, so she had Thursdays off. So he took Thursdays off and worked Saturdays at his job in Rochester, brought her to our house. So we had a day with grandma. He'd go to the local golf at Genesee Valley Park. Did you ever play disc golf there when there was a couple of years? They had a Frisbee golf thing. But anyway, there was a public league, and he just played in the public leagues as often as he could. And so he played in May of 2019. He'll just do, 9 holes, maybe 7 out of the 9, has his handicap flag so he can drive right up to where his ball is. And he passed away in August at age 96. He was still playing.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Wow.
96 is great.
But I have one sister that has started to pursue that sport. And, but I just appreciated everything. And I have a brother, that played, two others that do recreational. And they keep asking me, hey, let's go play. So someday I will get as many siblings as I can and we'll go play.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, that's good stuff. For
Now,
sure.
on this list, sorry, I know you want to ask a question, but it was a 2-pager there. DDC, that was the other thing that was on.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
And that's important because that's invented by Jim Paul Mary.
Yes. And again, pros were the disc of choice. I think they still use them, don't they? For DD.
Yeah, you got to have something with a little flex in it so it doesn't totally
So
break
I had,
your arm.
again, you'd get to a tournament, and if you didn't have a partner, you'd just start asking around right there at registration, or you'd maybe saw somebody the night before and say, hey, do you have a DDC partner yet? But I played with Cynthia Allen, I played with Tita Ugaldi. I wonder if I did play with Gail McCall. I can't recall specifically. And then as Ultimate started coming in, I competed in Ultimate with some ladies from Cornell, from RIT, and now Suzanne Fields and Tina Booth are starting to come to a lot of the tournaments, and John Cohn's wife, forgive me, drawing a blank on her first name, but anyway, so you were starting to meet more women as more women are starting to compete, and so would just find a different partner and do DDC. So I enjoyed it, but probably that wasn't my favorite, but I didn't dislike it. I would just do anything available at most of the overalls.
Did Jim beta test that with the Rochester Frisbee Club before kind of launching it?
He did. He would bring the strings and pegs and mark off the course, and then we'd play at the St. John Fisher College on the athletic fields. And I'm sure it was, kind of fine tuned, and we played it. It was a fun recreational game, and so he got us all involved in everything.
Yeah, I got you guys hooked. If it was anything else, it might be illegal how much influence he had on you guys.
Well, it was interesting talking with Paul yesterday about all this too. I never really even gave this any thought, but I didn't realize that these different overall events were from different regions of the country, and so that's a pretty fascinating thought too, that over time, as people came together for these Frisbee events, they're like, well, wait, we got a game that we could play too. Let's add this to the whole mix. And, just like the whole organicness of the roots of the whole thing, it's really cool and appealing to think about, how all that became. Cause, like I started in the early 90s and all of that, but I never even thought about where any of that came from. I just knew that I was mostly interested in golf. And so like I was telling Paul yesterday that John Houck used to run Texas State Championships forever. And we would go and you sign up for the whole thing. But most of us, by the time I started playing them, most of us didn't do anything but play the golf. And you always got 3 discs, but they were 150 class, but you still got 3 discs. So, you're like, well, let's just do that and not worry about the rest of it.
Yeah, and it was, I think, attending all those overall tournaments that people would start kind of, Dave wanted freestyle. He was just going to focus on freestyle. The other ones, he would do them if he had the time, but he wanted to focus on
Specialize. Freestyle. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, so here comes the Freestyle Players Association. Ultimate was getting big. So here comes the UPA, Ultimate Players Association. And now people are kind of going singularly into an event. There was Mike Conger, Snapper. He started, no, not Snappers, Captain Snap. Is it Mike Conger? Yeah.
Captain Snap.
But he started Riders of the Wind. So he started a players association for MTA people, TRC people who enjoyed that event. So again, people, started just really enjoying certain things and would find those tournaments to, go off to.
And I know just from doing the reading that some of those decisions, like I think Dave's decision to launch the FPA a lot of that came from that the prohibition against only using whammo products. You know, you want to have something that's going to protect the interests of the players, and the
Right.
players want to play with the things they want to play with.
Exactly, yeah. So hence, everyone loved the Sky Styler from Discraft, and so as
No
David,
shaving required.
yeah, as he started, the FPA, then he wanted to start a series of tournaments that featured just freestyle. Hence, then, with this was a big, freestyle tournament
Right.
with the World Flying Disc Federation. Is that, who hosted
With
that?
diff, right on. Okay,
And
so
some other
this
events.
this is kind of jumping ahead because we still have a lot of stuff to talk about before 1984, but this kind of fits into this question that I have that I kind of came up with when we were talking to Cheryl last weekend. The invention of the beveled edge disc, to me, it kind of occurred to me while we were talking to Cheryl that it quite possibly ushered in the end of the overalls. Is there any, do you think there's anything to that? I mean, because it made it easier to focus on one thing for sure. And and I just told a story about how I was like, man, I just really want to go to the golf part of that event and I don't really care about the rest of it. And obviously that's just one story, but it just kind of made me wonder, did that draw more attention towards golf and folks just kind of forgot about the other stuff?
I wonder, yeah, because once Whammo's championships, after that 82, then when was the first PDGA championship? I mean, they did that $50,000 PDGA event in 79.
Right.
So was there a
82 was the first Worlds.
Okay, so then 82 were the first World.
Yeah.
So now, as again, it is drawing people, and with the new disc. But didn't they come out? These weren't till 83.
Right.
Yeah, but here's my,
There's your arrow,
There
your
you
eagles
go.
and your arrows.
Look at
and
those.
in fact, on the back of all these, it doesn't give me a model or whatever. It just says patent pending.
Yeah,
Ah,
But I still use these,
oh boy,
nice.
you got to watch out for
So then,
disc
yes,
thieves.
but then they started using these for distance, if there was a distance event, because they did go farther. And, it just, you just now had exclusive discs for different events. And I think the draw of so many ultimate players enjoying it, as that started, through the colleges, then who's a premier great golfer, a person who can chuck the disc and run and catch and throw and weave. And golf, I think, came natural to a lot of ultimate players. And so they hear of this tournament, hey, let's go check this out. And so I think a lot came over from ultimate days.
Okay.
Well, you can definitely tell an ultimate player that became a golfer though, because of the lean out and the sidearm, I mean, like it's a dead giveaway. Oh, wait, you played ultimate, didn't you? And they're like, how do you know? And it's like that throw right there that you just did. They're like, oh, really? Okay. And
Yeah, the only woman on the Rochester Frisbee Club ultimate team, and I remember traveling to Amherst, Massachusetts, playing college teams, but they allow, city clubs. And I was the only woman, but finally there was one woman on one of the other ones. It's like, oh, good, she's going out. Can I go out? So, you'd be really left in the dust if you were, it was person to person defense. And a lot of times if I was out there, I'd get left in the dust by a real fast guy. So I wasn't effective. So I didn't get a lot of play time until they would put out a woman. Then I could go and we'd, be on the defense, person to person defense. And so I finally got a little more playing. And then again, as more women got involved, finally, women's division started. And then that was Dave's and my recreational sport in the early 80s, when we stopped more of the tournament play and just played local with our local ultimate club, and just enjoyed that for recreational and for, keeping fit. I remember bringing one of my kids, maybe two of my kids, to the ultimate fields, and we'd tag team, who watches the kids, or, hey, wait, they're eating a snack, but I'm going out, and somebody would watch your kids for you. So it was a good
True family.
Yeah.
so for more than one reason, it takes a village.
let's introduce this. We've talked to a lot of a lot of our guests so through the course of doing the show have logged a lot of miles. And Steve Valencia and Dan Ginley, sorry, they put on thousands in over course of 2-3 years. But you guys were among the original barnstormers, and you had it arranged. Dave was studying law, so he had summers off, and you were working for St. John's College as well. So you had arranged they had summers off.
We were in Albany. Yeah, my little college was called the College of St. Rose.
Oh,
And so
sorry.
I took summers off. They didn't need me. They didn't have a big summer semester. I worked in the business office. So we had those summers free that we could do that travel. And with an old junker of a car, a Ford Torino wagon, we would just pack it with, mats for sleeping if we wanted, all our camping gear, the discs. Oh, that's what I didn't get you. One of the girls mentioned the ice cream tub. I still have an ice cream tub.
Oh,
Yes. I think
nice.
was it
I
Susie?
can disappear off camera. I would go get it. I
That
don't
might
know
have
how.
been Tammy.
But anyway, you stack all your discs in that, load that in the back with all your other gear, and off you go. And we drove.
I didn't realize the Torino belonged to y'all. I mean, that's going to come up again too, folks. Just a little warning. The Torino will be spoken of again, but
Ford Torino wagon. Yeah. Yeah.
So your normal diet is essentially peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
It's about, yeah.
And you're going from tournament to tournament. Was there prize money available so that if you did win, you could
A
have
little
fancy
bit,
dinner?
occasionally, maybe $25, $50 if I was third, second in golf. A little bit later in the 70s, there was one tournament. I think I won $300, but I never saw the prize money because the tournament director kind of cut loose and nobody heard from her again. But anyway, it's okay. She made the effort.
interesting.
Right. Yeah.
And so that $300 is on my, what would you go, pro. Back then, you signed up, and if you got money, it's like, yay. So I was pro back then. I didn't know that there was an option to decline money. It's like, no, I'll take that money. It's going to put gas in the tank.
Right.
Hey, we can go out to dinner tonight instead of just eating, stuff from the grocery store or, out of the cooler. So, yeah, and had different prize money, and then that would get you going, into the next, onto the next tournament. But again, I mentioned yesterday, to Brian that one summer, my grandmother died in January, but she left each grandchild $1,000. That was like, wow. We lived off that money in the summer. Another summer, Dave's granddad passed and kind of did the same thing. So we had, a little extra cash to live off of, sublet our apartment in Albany, got on the road, lived then at our parents' place during that summer as we would, head off to this tournament, come back. Home base was still Rochester. Go back to another tournament, be gone 3 weeks, come back.
Wow.
And then go back in, late August and get our apartment back and resume life.
But see, people maybe they may think about how star-studded and thickly studded the tournament schedule is now. We're talking like one weekend and you're in Seattle, the next weekend you're in Huntsville, back and forth across the country.
Well, we would try to do it because I remember going on the northern trek, we went to Minneapolis, and then we probably carried off through the Dakotas, but ended up in Seattle, Vancouver, then came back somehow. I don't know if there was something in the Midwest, and then come back home where Boulder was always a stop. So we always loved Boulder as a tournament location. So.
Well, since we're talking Boulder, and we're talking road stories, and we're talking the
Oh yeah, perfect segue.
It's a perfect segue. So you go to the Western Nationals. This is 1977.
Yeah.
Dave takes second in MTA.
Okay,
You tie for second in golf with Monica Liu and Jackie Entwistle. Before we get to your story there, this is the story where Cheryl told us she dominated. She wins by 6 strokes. The year before, she went to Boulder thinking she had a chance. She was playing hot. She was good. She got humbled. She humbled herself. She was down in the mouth. And Monica comes over and says, there's always another one around the corner. And Cheryl looks up and says, yes, I'm going to come back here next year and win. And you show up, and what happens? Cheryl wins.
Oh, okay. Good for Cheryl. But yeah, it's just that you went, you had fun, you did the best you could do at that tournament, that event, and you carried on. And like I said, there was the next one. And one of the, again, because you're at these NAS, North American Series, trying to qualify, we just enjoyed the travel. So there was a point where I probably had enough points and didn't need to go, but we're already on the road and we're enjoying it. And, you know, you just love the group of people that, you know, you were with and traveled with and interacted with. And you just, you know, God gave us a great, you know, just a great season of life to just meet people and be, you know, the forerunners of this sport. So we give glory to God for that. We just appreciate, you know, those opportunities we were given. And
so you're in Boulder and you got to drive back to Rochester.
yeah. And all right, so we go out with two vehicles. The
Yeah,
Ford
okay,
Train
bit of a
Away.
convoy.
There's maybe four of us in that. Jim Palmieri drives out with his VW bus with Jamie Mold, probably Billy Odell, Doug Correa. And so I don't know who was in our car, but anyway, you do this tournament. That one was a weekend event. Literally, we left on Thursday night after everybody got out of work, drove all night.
Wow.
Late Friday,
What?
practice golf, because at least that's one event, you know, kind of need to practice. Dave was probably off practicing freestyle, but Jim had to get home for something. So he flew out of Denver. That, I don't know who took him to the airport, but he said, you guys drive my van home. So he said, okay. Bruce Kroger and Marie Murphy asked for a ride because, you know, you start talking, how are you getting home? Oh yeah, are you staying long? No, we're going to go on to this. Offered them a ride because there's now more room in these two cars, but we're still going to kind of carpool it, stay together. And so we start out with Jim Palmieri's van, start Sunday night, right? Taking off after the tournament and do kind of an all-nighter. So you did a 4-hour driving shift. Then it was somebody else's turn. You'd stop, get gas, next driver, come on in. I don't know who was driving the van, if it was Doug Correa, but all of a sudden he can't get the clutch out and he can't shift beyond second gear. So we're in the middle of the night. I just remember it's between 2 and 3 a.m. I'm ready to take the graveyard shift in our Torino. They can't, and so we stop, but they're realizing, okay, something's wrong. We can't start it. We can't get it out of second gear after this gas stop, who knows where, in Cozad, Nebraska. And now they can't get his van going. But I had already known I'm ready to drive. So I'm drinking Tab and took a
Totally artificial beverage.
no dose so that I can get ready to drive.
Tab and a no dose.
Oh man.
Nowhere because we don't want to leave that group who were with the van because we're going to go together. So guess what? We're all camping out under the stars at the gas station, waiting for the mechanic to come the next morning to take a look at it. And so finally I fell asleep, but the guy comes the next morning, looks at Jim Palmieri's VW van, and when he goes to the front of the van to look under the hood for the engine, they knew, wait a minute, no, this mechanic doesn't even know where the engine is. Don't go any further. So it's Monday morning or Tuesday morning, we tie up that van to our Ford Torino wagon. I don't know what we use to hitch it, but off we go to the next a VW dealer who's in Lincoln, Nebraska. So whoever's driving Jim Palmieri's van sits there with the clutch in the entire time so they can just be towed by our wagon. And we've got a dog with us besides. So now we get
nine adults. That's just so crazy.
Yeah, we leave the van there so the mechanic there can now give the horrible, of course, we're in touch with Jim Palmieri best we can without cells. You find the nearest pay booth or whatever, pay phone in a booth, let him know. And he says, okay, just tell the mechanic, here's my number, be in touch with me when we know what's wrong. Everybody goes into our Ford Torino 3-seater, you know, that back bench and our dog, but we rented a U-Haul trailer to put all our, you know, duffel bags and our equipment and everything, pile into that, drive to Chicago, drop off Marie Murphy and Bruce Kroger. Then the rest of us carry on, 7 of us now on to Rochester, and finally got home. And doesn't David turn around the next weekend? He goes to Boston because there's a tournament, freestyle tournament there with a bunch of guys. And I said, I don't want anything to do with the road. I want to stay. It was a freestyle tournament, and off he went to Boston with probably Doug Correa and you know, somebody else. So
Doug was his traditional freestyle partner, wasn't he?
Yeah. For the 76, 77, 78, I think were their premier years. Yeah. So
So
Yeah.
this is 1977 we're talking about, and you said you'd gone down to the octet in 77. By the way, you took first in MTA there. Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
The very next day, you play Craigmere, where you get your PDGA number. And the only thing I want to bring up here is the comment that apparently it was a beautiful ski hill course that crisscrossed,
Right.
and it played all the way down, and then you take a chairlift back up to the clubhouse at the top, which must have been super cool. Now, here's where the interesting part for us from this retrospective position. The meet featured the introduction of a somewhat more stringent playing rules, including placement of the lead foot behind a disc placed where the lie is, and outlawing any extra practice throws during play. So the PDJ comes in with their fancy new organization, and they impose two major rules changes. Did they affect you at all? Were you putting your lead foot outside the disc or in front of the
I
disc?
think what we probably did is wherever the disc came to lie, you put your foot right on it versus making this perpendicular line behind it and staying behind it. I think
Okay.
so it wasn't as inches that you just got to be aware of the perpendicular line behind your disc, not your foot where your disc was picked up. So there was so they just probably wanted to establish something with.
Sure. No, it's understandable, but did that mess you up as a player? Okay.
So I don't remember it ever,
Okay.
something that, oh, well, I can't believe that, yeah. And then, yeah, so I just, we just did the tournament, and I just remember, again, kind of being at this ski hilly thing and a lot of zigzagging, but again, scenic, beautiful outdoor event, great weather as far as I can remember. I don't remember, being rained on or anything. I think we had a good weekend. So
Sweet.
and then we drive home at night, right? You're done at about 5. Awards are between 6 and 7, and you hit the road, and you make it home. So
How far was that?
I think from
seems
that
like
area, New Jersey, probably 6.5, 7 hours. Yeah, not horrible. You're getting in wee hours of the morning, but you could do it. We were young then, right?
yeah,
Well,
right.
yeah. I mean, with no does and
Tab.
tab. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah.
So what's on? Is it the radio station only? Do you have an 8-track in the car? I know this is before
Oh,
cassette tapes.
yeah, 8-track. No, we got into cassettes. We're big. Yeah,
Okay.
cassettes. That's what Dave played, and then the kind of boom boxes. I mean, you could get them battery operated, so you had your freestyle music going on the side of the green wherever you're, playing, and you had the cassette. You could buy the cassette players for those older cars and kind of insert them somewhere. I guess if you took the radio out, you could insert a cassette player, and so then so I think that's how was the music of the day.
Did someone have control of the music or
No,
any
no.
grudges? No? Okay.
Yeah, we used to make our own cassette tapes off the radio. We had one radio station in Albany that would play a whole series of just one artist. And we have a whole Beatles tape. We had a whole, Dave loved Jean-Luc Ponty, if he was a jazz musician and had, a lot of his music. And so we'd bring our own little cassettes and off we go.
That's one thing that's been, I mean, that's a very universal language with the music, it's always, I don't know. I've always felt, I read this one time where someone said, if you feel like you need music at the beach, you've missed it. And I counter that with, music's kind of like putting cake with ice cream. I mean, I'm going to eat the cake with or without the ice cream, but ice cream makes that cake just a little bit better, doesn't it? And I feel like music is like ice cream, it just makes things even better.
Dave will tell you that, again, he could probably tell you every music and the song they picked for that event and stuff like that. I don't have as great a recall, but he's a musician. I mean, he grew up, in the high school bands and stuff and plays guitar now on our worship team at church and has always enjoyed music. So, and the artistry, of different music genres. So he would know every artist that he used for a freestyle competition.
We'll be sure when we do have him on the show that we'll talk to him specifically about the playlists.
Yes.
Life before Spotify.
Yeah. Again, like you said, we made our own tapes recording off the radio.
Oh, I remember doing that, hitting pause for the
and hoping they didn't start a commercial before the song was over. I remember that as well.
Yeah. So
So, we don't want to bog down too much in the stats and the details. You started playing a lot more frequently through 70. You had a lot of time. Those were your big tour years. But
76, 80, yeah.
I
Then
want to bring you to 78, the World Flying Champion. This is before the WFC, before you became the reigning golf champion. This is the year leading up to this, and you did excellent there. You took second in golf, second in DDC, second in distance. You won the indoor distance. I mean, this was one thing that occurred to me. Who was your partner for that DDC? Do you remember?
I don't remember it. I have to go back and look. I'm not sure as either.
So-
It might have been Cynthia Allen and I paired up a lot. And again, she was another premier golfer coming out of the South in Florence, Alabama, then Huntsville, Tom Monroe, and that whole crew. And Cynthia, I'm still in touch with her today. We do Christmas cards exchange. So I have the discs that Tita got a bunch of us to sign at the Pioneers. Well, I'm getting a couple more signatures, and I'm going to send it to her to sign my disc. And then also Joanne Loftus and Judy Horwitz, I've got to get in touch with as well.
Nice.
In touch
Great
with
names.
But Cynthia, bless her heart, she came to Rochester in 1979, and Jim Palmieri again knew the importance of establishing a premier event. So he established a cup. So it was, a big cup with the handles and a nice big square base that you could start with putting on the plaque the name of the player who won that event year to year. So he said, we will name this tournament after the first winner, and it was in 1979 in Rochester at his premier golf events. And Cynthia Allen won it. So it is called Allen Cup. So
Nice.
her first name, 1979, is the winner, and now it's named after her. And then this past year, because of the AFDO's 50th anniversary, people were asking, does anybody know where this Allen Cup is and where it is? And I can't remember. We got in touch with Judy Horwitz, who won it. I won it, I think, 2 or 3 years, being, again, always staying in Rochester, going to the championship or champion, then they bring it back. They'll engrave it and then have it ready for the next event, and cannot find it. Do not know where it is, but Cynthia, it's the Allen Cup, Cynthia Allen, because she was a premier golfer, distance thrower, DDCer, field events as well. But she chose after kind of when that Frisbee life season was done, she ended up in California and then married a man that she met. I think he was a dentist, I could be wrong, and lives in Central California, I think kind of near Sacramento area, and has 2 boys. And so it was fun exchanging cards and seeing her boys and my boys, kind of grow through the years. And so, your seasons of life change, and David's and mine surely did. And again, him having a career path already established all during these Frisbee years, he knew he was going to be an attorney, but then being an attorney turned into going in-house general counselor and then into management, business management. And that's what took us to England in 84 to 87. So we had that season of life and just came back, just different people. I mean, I just had a wonderful encounter with the Lord and just really grew my faith walk. And that's how I would say it, that we both established a great faith walk from 85 to 88. But the interesting story there is when we moved to England, we heard Jeff Hungerford was living there doing a master's program and we met to his wife. And so we would go visit them in central London. We were about 30 miles outside in a town called High Wycombe, but we'd go and spend the day with them, go to church in the morning, then go have a wonderful lunch, and then go visit a museum. And so it was Jeff Hungerford that suggested in 1985, if I'm not jumping ahead of you guys.
No, we can jump
No,
there.
it's quite all right.
There's this world championship up in Sweden. And I thought, okay, well, okay, yeah, cool. We can make a vacation of it. And we had a little 1-year-old, and he traveled with his wife. We went up, got our accommodations, and then went to this tournament called so in Helsingborg, Sweden, 1985, disc golf championships. And so I arrived there and I didn't know what other Americans would travel over, met, some folks from the European, but Tammy Pellicane was there, and Tammy won it handily. I think she beat us by at least 6 or 8 strokes.
5 strokes.
5 strokes. And so I came in second, and who was third?
Oh, I have that right here.
I have a poster, and I think I told Brian, I have a poster, and I have Sammy Farron's signature. I have Tom
Chris
Monroe.
O'Cleary.
I have what first name?
Chris O'Cleary. Chris.
Yep, Chris Clary. Yep. So she signed my poster. Tammy signed my poster. Snapper Pearson. Who else? Scott Stokely as a junior.
Nice.
Sammy Farron. So
Yeah.
I got a great, memorabilia.
So this is, I'm looking at the stats right now, and I see in 7th place out of 17 pro FPO, Joanne Gallagher. Now, she used to live in Toronto. She just moved to Collingwood, and I bumped into her quite randomly on the street this week.
Oh, really?
I did. And so I told her, I'd reached out to her to see if she'd be a guest. And so this was our chance to confirm that, yes, she's going to be on the show. And I told her who I have coming up today. And she said, oh my God, Michele Marini. She was my mentor. She taught me everything about disc golf. So maybe this is a good segue. Do you have any Joanne Gallagher reminiscences?
I don't, because again, in that season of life, because you're going to this tournament, but yet I always had, Dave, how's Matt, our little toddler and stuff like that. And we kind of had a little vacation. We went to Stockholm for a little bit. So I guess I wasn't fully engaged. For me, it was this, oh, cool, vacation. Oh, a Frisbee golf tournament. I'll do it, and so, but Joanne, I've got to wreck the brain a little bit more.
Okay.
But she was out of Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay. So
then she was a really big, she's in the TUC Hall of Fame for ultimate foundation of the sport. So you guys might have even passed to same circles when you were in
your years. Because how many times we attended that tournament.
Right on.
Right. Toronto Island. So because I know the name, and I have so many people, recollection on individuals sometimes gets a little. Yeah.
Well, we didn't prep you on this, so you're coming at this fresh, and you're digging up a lot of great stories already, and thank you for indulging our passion, especially mine for the minute.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah.
When we talked to Tita, also kind of continuing with the Toronto story, she came to Rochester, and then she told me that you guys all road tripped up to Toronto for the Toronto tournament.
Okay.
I believe that she said it was the two of you, herself, and the Velasquez brothers. Do you recall that trip?
I don't, again, real specific, but I remember having a picture with Tita going down to my mom and dad's summer place, and we hiked. It's called Letchworth State Park, and I have a picture of her and I hiking. So there must have been either she came a couple days early and we went there, and then we did the tournament. Then next weekend go up to Toronto, but I not specific recollections, because again, if she remembers who she stayed with and who she went out to eat. I'm always traveling with David. So he and our logistics might be different than everybody else's that traveled in a bigger group.
Sure.
And we just knew, okay, we got to get up on Friday, we got to get back Sunday night, so our hanging out before or after. But I remember Tita being with me between tournaments and staying and going to visit my mom's place, and her staying with us. So, and then I love her little comment that when I went out to California, she was the first one to introduce me to Mexican food. And then did Cheryl mention, I haven't listened to Cheryl's podcast, but she's the first one I ever had salmon with up in the Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, I'm expanding my culinary awareness, by traveling. So it's again, a great opportunity. I mentioned to Brian yesterday, just again, the road miles that have been covered doing Frisbee, that we got majority of the states covered and doing all this driving, east, west, north, south. So we have both, Dave and I have been to all 50 states now, because then we knew which ones we didn't make and made purposeful vacations. And our 35th wedding anniversary was to Alaska to do a visit there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I haven't got there yet, and I haven't got to Hawaii.
Yeah, that was our,
there's just so many different things, different things took me to different places like that as well. Like you were talking about traveling through on the way too. And some of mine's like that as well, but it's either work or disc golf or both, you know, in most of those places for me. Or, you know, some personal vacations as well.
Right, but no, ours, the majority were, yep, the hours on the road, traveling from tournament to tournament. Got a big chunk of the number of states, yeah, out of the way. As you mentioned, we had a little atlas, you know, and mine was a mini one. And every time we went through a state, I had a little green check mark in the corner. Little miniature atlas, but yeah, you lived on road maps, yeah, and just, you know, had them ready.
It wasn't always in the phone, that's for sure.
Exactly. No, you
How-
had to know
How
your.
many times you guys get lost, and who was the main map misreader?
Jim Palmieri is a great navigator and always had the maps and always kept us, you know, and even though he'd let us drive and you'd take your shifts, he'd be there with the map, and he, you know, there'd always be a co-pilot. So you were kind of always, somebody would be looking at the map, making sure if it wasn't just a straight shot on a interstate. So you always kind of had that co-pilot helping out with the map.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing how we used to find these little spots. And
Mhm.
now like you can't get out of town without a, you know, without GPS on your phone, you know.
Yeah. Oh no, my dad always had maps, you know, and so I've always enjoyed and still, you know, have maps. And when we moved and downside, I had to throw away a lot of my maps and that, yeah. And they were just the ones you could buy at gas stations, but they're, you know, they got us everywhere, you know. So
Yeah, it's something else.
mhm.
So in 1979, it was a pretty big year for you. And for the North American Series in Huntsville, you took second in distance and you won golf.
Mhm.
Tied for second in DDC with Cynthia Allen. And then you won self-caught flight. Didn't seem like such a tongue twister when I started. So what do you remember about that trip to Huntsville? I mean, obviously that must have been pretty triumphant, winning the golf there and everything.
I enjoyed, again, Tom Monroe would design the course. I remember earlier years it was objects, but I'm sure by then it was pole holes. But I remember finally discovering sunscreen. Sunscreen wasn't
Oh,
prevalent in the early 70s. And so finally I remember taking just a cloth and having to cover my head because the intense sun. I wasn't real good on keeping a visor as well, or a baseball cap, but I just remember the intense sun and that he had samples of sunscreen. And so finally started incorporating more head cover, more sunscreen because of those southern tournaments that we would get to. And so
That's how we know it. There you are, right there with the
70.
just
Oh,
with the
okay.
focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
See,
is from
finally, yeah. So I had at least a scarf, you know, to avoid the sunburn, but then you'd get that little red mark because you'd be all red under your scarf, your headscarf. And finally the visors. Yeah, got into visors. But yeah, a lot of sun damage back in those days. So please, wear
well,
your
how was it coming you growing up in Rochester, like, living under semi-humid, muggy conditions only for a couple weeks in the summer?
right. It
You
wasn't
go down
bad.
to Huntsville in June and that's sweltering.
Intense. Yeah, yeah.
oh
Yeah,
man.
you had to learn it. Yeah, there's just certain times. Yeah, you run to the shade any opportunity you get, and then you quick go back out, get to the shade. But yeah, Rochester only had, like you say, 1 or 2 weeks when it was just intensely uncomfortable. But yeah, finally, then living in the South, we lived in Atlanta, and boy, you just learn, you know, certain times of days, but lots of sunscreen, lots of cover. But the one thing I do remember, one of our Huntsville trips, is Dave got horrible food poisoning.
Mm.
And so they, you know, again, you're going out to eat on the Saturday night, Sunday night, but oh, he was, yeah, throwing up all night. So
Man, that's one of the worst experiences ever.
yeah, Chinese, and just wasn't probably a well turned over restaurant. So that he'll tell you that's one of his horror stories, getting food poisoning. But yeah, I remember one time too, Cynthia Allen hosted us to stay at her house too. And so again, just a great host, a great friend. And you know, she came up our way, you know, we host. And so you just always opened your home, you know, to accommodate friends and whoever was passing through. So
Absolutely.
Well, I
And
can't speak for the current situation, but that was, I mean, that was part of what solidified Paul and I's, friendship. I mean, he was looking for a place to stay when he was here, volunteering for one of the Veterans Park Open events in the 90s. And I mean, I traveled from 99 to 08, and I guarantee I didn't buy a hotel room 5% of the time because, there was always somebody that was willing to put you up. And then once you made friends with somebody, next year, they were already looking forward. They were probably communicating already with you. Okay, so when you get into town, you got a place to stay with us. Just plan on coming over. And, there's so many nights where I was at Friday night, sun's going down, and, like I'd play doubles with somebody or, just played a practice round, and they're like, oh, hey, where are you staying? And I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that yet. And they're like, what do you mean you hadn't thought about it? Well, come stay at our house, and there were so many times that I didn't give it a lot of thought most of the time because it just got to be the common occurrence. You don't have it figured out? Well, why don't you stay with us? And I made so many more good friends from that, than just like from the people you played with during the round or whatever, so.
Because we traveled so much, then if we did and could afford a hotel and we weren't going to camp, you would get as many people into that room. So we would take.
Oh yeah, we've ganged up on a few hotels too.
People would sleep on the mattress and the box springs, but just sleep in the back of the car. So you get as many people in that room as possible, and then people put two chairs together and have a semi-hammock there. So whatever we can get by on tiny budget,
Any which way but loose for sure. So 79 is you're really tuning it in. You're winning a lot. You win distance in Vancouver, Rochester. You win the golf there. Took second in Toronto. Took sixth at the Whammo $50,000 Open.
Yeah,
that's kind of a tasty appetizer for your big debut at the World Frisbee Championship, 1979. You win the golf and you win distance. Second overall. This is also where Ashley Whippet has a special performance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
By the way, canine sports, hard for us to believe now, but how important they were, how central they were back then.
Oh, it brought the crowds. The dogs always brought the crowds. And, we know people that had Frisbee dogs. John Pickerel had Martha. We had a dog named Lee, and she was in a 4th of July parade with us. Jim Palmieri orchestrated this. It was the town he taught in, this Penfield, and the dog, she would do the little catch and bring it back to us, and then we'd walk a little bit, and then they'd do a little freestyle, then we do a little doggy demo, and it got so hot there. I remember her saying, no, I'm done. I just walked with her along the side, but the dogs, yeah, it was a great event. And those competitions are still going today with all who's the big dog, Kate. I can't think of the name of the, you still see them, the dog competitions.
Okay. It's not just the Westchester Dog Show.
Yeah.
So while we talk about the Rose Bowl, I just want to share this. This was some fun footage that I found of, these are the Velasquez brothers, and they won the freestyle that year. And just like, this is what, you can't really tell because this is taken from the stands how many people, but there are probably about 20,000 people there watching the finals.
Right.
This was filmed, I think, for the first time by the local ABC affiliate.
Okay. Yeah. 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 And Dave and Doug would have been there. Or no, Dave said in 79 he played with John Jewell, I think, at the Rose Bowl. Okay. But anyway, yeah, Whammo they did one thing is they put a lot of the people that came in on one side and then did all their filming with those brothers, but with all the, seeing everyone in the bleachers, a fuller crowd.
Right.
Right.
This is, you can see all the judges there. I saw Danny McGinnis. So there was always a judging panel, and Dave and Jim Palmieri was key in trying to get judging done by artistic ability. What do you call it? I have to ask him. 3 components of the judging. So it was more like ice dancing, where it is difficulty, artistic
choreography.
Choreography, yeah, yeah. So now you're being judged on all three components. And the difficulty, that was the other one. Yep, so then there's a judging panel of probably about 10 people off to the side, and then you would write your score of those three components. Then they would average the scoring of all the judges and then take the overall. And then that's how you would have the judging done of the freestylists.
These guys are amazing.
Yeah, they're really cooking it.
Oh, they, yeah, we both.
Now when we see in the foreground there, there's a pool hole right there, number 12.
Yeah.
Was that just used for demonstration purposes? Because by this time on the Sunday, the golf has been wrapped up.
They might have, yes, they might have taken the two, I don't remember ever doing it, but maybe the two men finishers, first and second, have them come in from the entryway, have them throw across the field and demo a golf hole with that is the final, you know, where they're gonna throw two, but they've got to go around this pole and they've got to make the dog leg and then you know, get it to the target. So yeah, they would have done a little demo of the whoever won golf that year and had them you know, be introduced as the champion, but probably play against one other guy, the second place winner.
Was this from 79? That one,
Yeah.
what we were watching right there?
That was from 79.
79 Rose Bowl?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so amazing.
That was
So,
YouTube? That was right on YouTube?
Yep.
Or-
It says never before seen camera action. And there's one point where you can see the crowd, like there's some kind of disturbance in the crowd. The police had to come down, and so you can see like clearly there's like just at least what they cram people into is packed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it looks like, yeah, there's big full attendance when the camera angle is correct, but yeah, they did well. But yet Tita said that was, you know, her first experience as being in those crowds, and it introduced her to the sport.
Yeah.
well, and hearing her talk about hearing it on the radio, you know what I mean? And like, that's one thing, like you mentioned Spotify earlier, and as soon as Jonathan Poole told me, oh, just get premium, like the first time I ever heard of it, I signed up for Spotify premium. And the thing I still to this day kind of don't completely haven't gotten over is not owning music and not having like a music collection, but you have the whole catalog on your phone. So it kind of gets past it. But Spotify's totally taken the place from radio in my life. Like I don't listen to the radio when I'm driving in the car anymore. I listen to playlists and stuff like that. And so hearing Tita talk, like that took me back to my childhood and listening to the radio station. And like my dad had a love for kites from his childhood. And so like local radio station when we were a kid, they had this kite fly in and they had several different categories. Well, for like 3 years in a row, my dad just built a bigger box kite every year. And like the third year he had to tie it onto the bumper of our pickup truck once he got it up in the air because it had to fly for a minute. But you know, like you hear about those kind of things on the radio. We don't hear about that kind of stuff anymore. You know, there's not like that spot where they're going to find people like us and go, hey, we got a Frisbee contest going on Saturday, you know, at blah, 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 come on down. And it's like, well, how do we expose that now, you know?
You always had a radio station and like a beer sponsorship or something where the two that would kind of, you know, be, again, Dave can talk to you that when he would get sponsors for the Freestyle Players Association championships and stuff. But yeah, definitely had to find that local radio station first and foremost for your advertising. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Those, well, you know, things are good, but things were good back then too.
Simpler, definitely simpler.
So we don't want to dwell too much on the year to year, but I do want to point out 1980 was statistically, from a golf perspective, your most impressive, successful year. You won every golf event that you played, including a repeat as a champion at the World Frisbee Championships. You also went to the World Flying Disc Championships in Santa Cruz. You won that. You win in Rochester, Philadelphia as well. How does that feel? You're kind of on top of the world there. You're now that kind of person that Tita was in the position to look up to Monica Liu. There might be some younger women in the game looking up to you. Do you feel that? Do you looking back on that? What are your impressions of of how you felt at the time?
I think it was just taking the opportunity as it presented itself. And at that season that we were able to take those summers off, compete, go, I never remember in my mind saying, oh, I'm gonna do this and do this so I can do this better. It's just like, no, I just go with it and okay, oh great, another tournament. Oh, let's go play. Oh, okay, it is golf. I will practice distance, for the teeing off. And there might be, an MTA. Oh, okay, I'll practice that. But it was just showing up and we were at the right place at the right time, for that season of life. And in 80, that's when David graduated law school. So I knew our commitment to be able to do that kind of travel was going to wind down. So like we flew out to California, we didn't drive for that, Santa Cruz tournament. But again, reflecting back now to know that I was the first repeat champion for women's golf, that's an honor, that I was able to do it back to back with Wamos. And then I think back to back, was there one in 81, 80 and 81 at this World Flying Disc.
Yeah, that's right.
And so again, he just to have that on the records is an honor, but I just thank God that I was in the right place at the right time and, had the right skills. In high school, we didn't have women's sports. So I played intramural, and I played the local.
Oh, okay.
And then played women's fun volleyball at nighttime after graduating high school. And so to get into a sport like Frisbee was like, wow, this is fun. I can really do something. And then to be able to succeed and continually progress, but yet again, travel and make friends and have life experiences.
Yeah.
You just can't, can't beat it.
Well, I want to put it into perspective. In 75, you watch Monica Liu throw a distance clinic and you get to throw a shot yourself and you realize, I'm not very good at this. 4 short years later, you win golf. So that learning curve, those indoor, over the winter indoor sessions, those under the lights Frisbee night sessions, the work you put into it as well, perhaps your mindset to it, to much more, free and less circumscribed by
Well, I think
pressures.
too, knowing where we lived in Rochester, we had the Frisbee club, our Rochester Frisbee club. So there was always something going on that you could engage in or go, hey, we're going to go here and do this. We're going to do this here. Hey, there's an ultimate. Let's get ready for ultimate. Let's go practice here. And so just having that accessibility to a great group, in Rochester that loved all the disciplines of disc sport and having the availability, just everything fell in place. So again, I just thank the Lord for, those great opportunities, great friends, great season of life, but it's,
well, and it's so remarkable too, how many of us have such a deeply cherished series of stories that relate to us throwing around plastic widget, what I mean? Like Cheryl talked about Ralph Williamson, and I last weekend, I just happened to show up in at this course called Lakewood, and I already knew some golfers from national doubles that I'd met that had come down for that event that John Houck used to run, and so I called one of them up, and we just happened to run into Ralph Williamson there, and then a few weeks later, I just happened to see him interviewed on CNN as like a lunchtime feature or something like that. It was just because they would run shows like that, and I was like, holy cow, I met that guy. I met him, a few weeks ago, and I mean, I was already playing tournaments. I wasn't a pro, I wasn't a touring player or anything like that. But one of the things I'll never forget him saying, because they were like, well, you have one of the biggest Frisbee collections in the world, and he kind of brushed that off a little bit, and his explanation was, well, he said, when you throw a Frisbee, you can fly. And that kind of is what you're talking about. That's kind of that whole thought led Paul, led myself to all these different fun experiences and the opportunity to make friends all over the continent, and that's honestly at the root of what we're trying to do more than anything, is just to remind everybody, hey, remember when you went and did this, and And
It all started, yeah, somewhere, and then just the, the crossing of paths and the development and the input that people, gave to the sport. And it's just incredible. And again, I go back to Jim Palmieri, and just what a dear friend. We're still in touch with him today, and always plug and love that, he wrote this book, the chain of events, and just what great insight and input. Again, the history of it. It's a great, great book, and again, love the guy. And I think I showed you our American Flying Disc Open, and that they, honored him with the, this disc. And here's all my Rochester Frisbee Club gang and wives, yeah, so this is my year from those days. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it. And just thank the Lord, for all that. And,
well, it's I really like what you're saying too. You've brought this up several times, is the season, that season of life. And there's, and you just, like, one of the things that I've thought of while you were speaking is that, like, one of the things that folks don't realize is when you're in a group of friends like you're talking about, like, you might not realize until that group has followed ever how many paths there are per person down in those directions, and you're standing there and you're going, wow, what a great group of friends we had right there, and we still have them, but they're, children in England pulled you guys in a direction, and all these other things that happen in life, put you in a situation to wait for that next time your path is going to cross with those people.
And the ongoing tournaments, did, have our pass cross, because in 84, we lived in, let's see, no, 94, we lived in Atlanta. And so here comes the Masters tournament. And it's like, okay, I'll go to that. And I saw Tom Monroe, saw Stork, had them over to our house, and some other gang that we hadn't seen in years. And so I was able to play the golf event. I have a picture of hauling my kids to that park, because it was way downtown Atlanta. We're again in Snellville, a little outside community, and got to play. But Tina Booth won the golf, and it got down to her and I in a playoff. And so, yeah, neat to, okay, so played in a decade in the 80s, got to play once in the 90s, moved to Raleigh in the 2000s. And I hear about, this tournament outside of Kentwood. It's outside North Carolina State tournament, or near their campus. And there's some, I don't know who sponsored it. Was it the, what was it? It wasn't seniors, but anyway, some little tournament. So I said, I'll go play. I haven't played that in forever, but took third, but just had fun and met, a few new people in the Raleigh area. Then come to find out how big this area golf group is.
It's a monster.
Is that
Capital area this league, and Jay Pontier is doing a great job, and we're going to host the Tim Selinsky Masters. So I will get up and get ready for that tournament, but probably won't do much travel before that, just what I can do locally.
When is that? So, when are y'all hosting the Selinsky? Is it this year?
This year, in Raleigh we'll host it, and it's I think the third week of September, like the 21st to the 24th. Here in Raleigh.
Here's another reason to make that Rock Hill trip longer for me. Just like last year for the women's nationals.
Exactly. Yep. So that's coming up again. Just again to see old friends. We know there'll be a ton of people that we knew from way back haven't seen.
Oh, so for sure. Yeah, absolutely. There'll be so many people that are surprised and happy to see you too. And you're like, wait, I've been waiting for our paths to cross.
And it's our backyard. And that's why, when I found out this other women's world championships in Burlington, it's like, I can't not do it. It's so close. And that's when I called Tina. I said, Tina, come stay with me. We'll go do this tournament. And she said, you know what this is? It's a world. It's a major. And it's like, okay. Well,
that was just like that simple little tournament in Helsingborg. We'll just go over there and play.
Okay, let's go. So
yeah, that was such a great encounter with her in Flagstaff, and I'm sure I've already spoke about this before, but I was like, hey, I really want to have you, we really want to have you on our show. And that's part of why I came here. The big reason why I came to Flagstaff was to run into you again. And she goes, come outside with me for a second, and took me out to the lobby, and she told me about the whole Pioneer Women thing. And I was just like she's like, would you be interested in interviewing us? And I was like, we absolutely would be interested. I'm not sure how that looks or what that's going to be, but I mean, this still, for me, it still stands as one of my favorite episodes. And it really was just a matter of like, I walked into that room when you guys were signing autographs, and Susie says, do you know Chris Brophy? I was like, hold on one second. I was like, I'm just going to let this go.
Here
And
comes the
introduce
small
everybody.
stories
And that
and
was, and all y'all told your stories, and it was just amazing. It was one of the best 45 minutes of the Good Times Hour so far, in my opinion. And it was because you were just telling great stories from the heart, and just those
The
fond memories.
the way back time. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great event. Enjoyed it. And again, to reacquaint with all those ladies. And then after that, I went down to Florida and I got Marie Murphy and brought her little goodie bag because she couldn't make that event because of health reasons, but got to spend time and reacquaint with Marie. So yeah,
Nice.
great.
So we've had you here going on with some great stories of contributing to the lore of knowledge. And certainly the Frisbee world is enriched to have you back in the fold, as it were, and to have you back playing. And I just want to ask you about what your perceptions were of the USWDGC. You show up, you think it's this little tournament. Tita has to tell you it's a big major, but you show up there and there's 400 women in the room, and they're hanging on every word you have to say.
It was an incredible experience again to see the involvement and the level of play, and having met the local ladies the previous year, and Patty Adams, who won the 70 amateur, and being able to play locally with some of these women in because there is a Triangle Women's Facebook page, and so everybody keeps informed of, hey, we're going to play here and that. And again, just to connect with new friends, but just see the expansion of this sport and how, I don't know, the sponsorships that they get, and the media presentation that's there to take this sport. It's global. It's just astounding. And again, to meet new people, I met Jen Allen and had never met her before. Got to meet Sylvia Volks and had never met her before. And I can't wait because this is the year I can join the Golden Gals that
Golden,
they have?
golden
70.
girls, golden gals. Yeah.
So I get to join another big group of ladies and meet them all. Hopefully a lot of them will be here in September for the Tim Selinsky Masters. And so, yeah, just another opportunity to meet people and, just have
Well, it's definitely gonna, I mean, there's no lack of great folks in your area to run a great event. So I'm sure that Selinsky will be another one that's just off the charts. And that was, I've got a lot of history with Sarah Nicholson. So it was really cool to be there for that part of the event as well. And, just to see her get her, what she deserves, the recognition that she deserves for the efforts that she's put in over the years. But also just, like I go back to the early 90s, like I said, and I found all of this from my friend Marie Gotcher in a sculpture class in college. I walked in and I looked at the three tables, and I was in my early to mid 20s, and I was looking at all these folks that are like our ages, just combined, generally speaking. And I was like, I don't want to sit with those old people. I don't want to sit with those old people. I don't want to sit with, what? Nobody's sitting right here. And so I just put my books on this bench. And the next thing you know, back then I smoked cigarettes. So I went outside and had a cigarette. I came back in, and the only people in the class that were my age were three young ladies at that table that had already put their books on stools I couldn't see. And as it turns out, my friend Marie introduced me to her husband. He introduced me to disc golf and hockey, two of my favorite spectator and participant sports, although I haven't ever played hockey. But it led to all of this. I mean, like, I was already working in the entertainment business, and the lighting part of my life has still continued to grow as well. But I found all these friends and all of y'all through one particular friend that I met in college. And, it's the same thing again, the path cross in the right time. And then, oh, wait, I think I'll walk down this path with you for a little bit and see what I find. And so that there's just so much of that. And especially over all the years, you know, from like 95 on for me, from my first major, and folks right in your backyard. So many good friends that I met back then that are in your neighborhood now. And it's, yeah, it's great. It's really amazing.
It is. And then again, now what, Facebook and media outlets like this, Zoom, and being able to connect everybody and, record these interviews, and it's great. And I thank you for what you guys are doing to, to keep the history alive and known. So.
Well, we're both just storytellers. We're just suckers for another great story.
I think we're long yappers. We're not story. We don't got no story to tell. We just know how to take words and string them along. But we can't thank you enough for taking this time and your energy and bringing the show and tell discs. Always great to see. All of us were Frisbee freaks at the core, so anytime the lid is lifted up, we always lean in a little closer. What is this all about? There it is, right there.
And yeah, 75. I can't believe I still have it, but I was gonna do what Tina was gonna do, is try to make a quilt. So she took all her t-shirts and make the quilt. So, but some I just can't cut up. So
you keep that.
That's understandable. That's totally understandable. I said this during the rehearsal earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Your grandkids have no idea how cool it is that their grandma and their grandpa are teaching them Frisbee, because that's like, it's just, man, it's so cool to hear these stories from the beginning, and y'all were right there on the ground floor when the first one came out, and found your way to it the natural way. And it's just awesome. It's amazing.
And then that's, again, we're, my mom, I'm going to go visit her at 95. She's still doing great. And just the interaction being, having mom and family there, but yet now having grandkids and pouring into them. That's what's important to us right now, is our family, and then just having, a great faith, family, and friends. So that's.
And add a little Frisbee and you got fourfold perfection.
Fun. The fun's in there too.
Well, thank you again, Michele. We really appreciate it. And we do want to arrange with Dave to have him on the show when he has a chance.
Oh, you'll get, great history of the Freestyle Players Association.
So,
yeah, well, and that's just, it's more and more, the more we're talking to folks from your era, the more it's just unavoidable to realize that that's super important. That's just as important as any other, as the invention of the beveled disc, the beveled edge disc, and all this other stuff. I mean, the evolution happened because of all those different things. So
amen. And David was inducted. I thought I had his little mini, but as he was inducted into the Freestyle Hall of Fame, and well deserved again, because he helped develop one of the judging criteria, and again, this Independent Players Association, which was I think the first Independent Players Association. To now let the players have the input and run their events and stuff. So again, big part. Oh, here it is.
oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
He had to get a shirtless photo too, eh?
Yeah. So they had done this in his induction and that so he had gotten, that.
Well, he's still looking good 45 years later. You're looking great. And, we're so thankful that, we're in the same orbit.
Yeah, so, thank you so much.
Thanks again for being on the Good Times Hour.
All right. God bless you
Yeah,
guys.
without a doubt. Thanks for stopping by, and look forward to, well, if nothing else, we'll see you in September.
Okay, wonderful. In person. Sounds great.
You got it. Thank you so much.